Hey, what's going on, Ram fans? Going to have some fun this episode. Actually, it could be a little painful. I enjoy doing this, but at the same time, kind of pains me. I'm going to throw out a Rams roster, and I'm not going to call it a roster prediction because I don't think anybody is qualified to do that. And it's just, I'm bordering on silly, and I've done it in the past myself. How I'm gonna characterize this is, hey, this is what a Rams roster might look like, and it's going to be challenging. The Rams are going to really have some challenges here. They're going to be cutting some good players. They're going to be cutting some players that we perhaps have grown fond of. But let's get into it. But before we do that, it is episode 730 on the podcast. Let's talk about a player who wore number 30. And, before Jerome Bettis, before Eric Dickerson, before Todd Gurley, before Marshall Faulk, there was Lawrence McCutchen. And as older Ram fans remember him, he was very good, 6'2", 205 out of Colorado State. So he played for the Rams in college and at the NFL level. Third round pick in 1972, played for the Rams for 8 years, five-time Pro Bowler, finished with 6,187 yards and 23 TDs, fourth all-time on the Rams rushing ledger, went on to become the Rams director of player personnel, Lawrence McCutchen. And in the 70s, he was one of the best running backs in the league. He was unfortunately on those teams that could never make the leap. They finally got to the Super Bowl with McCutchen and Wendell Tyler pairing up there in the backfield. But Lawrence McCutchen, one of the best running backs of that decade, didn't get the recognition that he deserved. Same old story. If you don't win it all, a lot of these so-called experts and the TV personalities just don't pay that much attention to you, not as much as they should. Lawrence McCutchen, our number 30 for the Los Angeles Rams. So let's get into this roster breakdown. And again, I'm not making predictions here. I just ran through it and I tried to give it my best shot. And the premise here is no trades, no players being cut that we don't expect, or perhaps some of us are predicting. No signings that some of us are predicting might happen in the next week or two. What we know for sure today, and all these guys that were potential June 1st cuts and all that, no, they're all on this roster, or at least considered for this roster. Let's get into the quarterbacks. And I think it's pretty clear to me the Rams are standing pat. Matthew Stafford, Jimmy G, and Stetson Bennett. I've seen a couple of clickbait articles. Stetson Bennett has a lot to prove. The Rams are going to move on from Stetson Bennett. And then I've seen other ones say, you know what? Bennett is the Rams' number 3 quarterback and has nothing to prove, and the Rams are very happy with him. I don't really know, but I will tell you the Rams have no quarterbacks, no quarterbacks added to this roster, even in free agency after the draft. So they're riding with these 3 guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they added a camp arm at some point, but 3 quarterbacks, that's what I'm rolling with. Running back position, pretty predictable. Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter, and Ronnie Rivers. Hunter, the draft pick, of course. Blake Corum, last year's draft pick, and Ronnie Rivers, a guy that when he's called on, gets it done. Who's the odd man out? Well, a couple of guys. We have Cody Schrader, the SEC running back out of Missouri that we picked up from the 49ers last year. And I wish we had seen more of him in that season finale, but we did not. And then we also have an undrafted free agent, Jordan Waters. And, we could eventually actually go with 3 running backs. And I'll explain at the end here. Got some tough decisions to make. And we'll talk about that at the end here. Wide receivers, I'm going with the 6 that, not really overthinking this. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, Xavier Smith, and Konate Mumpfield. And there's a couple of undrafted rookies, that undrafted free agent rookies that could make a splash here, but I rolled with these 6. I don't think I'll be receiving too much pushback on that. Mumpfield, a 7th round draft pick, would seem to be vulnerable, perhaps, and maybe even Xavier Smith, because there are a couple of undrafted rookies that could make this roster that are similar, have a similar skill set. And then there's Britton Covey, the punt returner. We'll talk about him at the end as well. Tight ends now: Tyler Higbee, Terrence Ferguson, Colby Parkinson, and Davis Allen, and no changes here. I don't think the 2 undrafted rookies really have a reasonable shot at making this roster. And I know maybe we move on from Colby Parkinson, but for this exercise, we're not predicting that. The guys on the roster, we're assuming they're sticking, or at least until cut down day. And I'm running with these 4. And you could consider going with 3 tight ends, but all this talk about 12 personnel, all the talk about how they plan on using Terrence Ferguson, more of like we can expect Colston Loveland to be used as well, another tight end drafted early. It may be 12 personnel in name only. You might think of Terrence Ferguson as a big slot guy. I'm not going to get into too much of that today. I'm going to save that for the next time we have Ian on. We've talked offline about how the Rams might use Ferguson, but nonetheless, for this exercise, 4 tight ends, and yeah, we're already maybe going overboard on our player list here, and we're going to get in a bind at the end here. Offensive line. Now, I went with 9 offensive linemen, and I'm still traumatized by what happened a few years ago. I understand the Rams have gone with 8 in the past, and I think at times they've had 10. I kind of split the difference, and I kept the guys that I think, as backups anyways, that have more versatility. The starters are no-brainers: Alaric Jackson, Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dawson, and Big Rob Havenstein. And the 4 backups I selected at this time are KT Leviston, as has been pointed out on the YouTube channel. One day we'd think of him as a guard, another day as a tackle. Pull up some depth charts from across the internet. You'll see him called at different things. Bottom line is, I think he could really play both in a pinch. I'm not sure how well. Did not get on the field last year. Warren McClendon, I think he's our first line of defense, or the first man up at left tackle. Bo Limmer, I think he's proven that he can contribute at center and potentially either of the guard positions. And then the 4th guy I have on here is Trey Wedig. Now, if he's an undrafted rookie, he has the potential to. I think the ceiling on him is the next right tackle for our Rams. Now, I'm not saying he is that, but when I looked at some of these other guys that we're probably going to be potentially moving on from, at least in this scenario, there are some good players that might be we might move on from them, and I could be completely wrong on this. The offensive line is pretty dicey. We've had surprises before, who they've kept and who they've cut. But my 9 guys, I think Leviston, McClendon, and Wedig offer some flexibility, as does Limmer. So those are the 9 I'm rolling with. I'd love to go with 10, but we're pretty much at the limit as far as the offense goes. Special teams: Ethan Evans, Joshua Carty, and Alex Ward. Still surprised we don't have any extras in the special teams department as far as kicker, punter, long snapper, but that appears to be the case. And then, let's look at this. So we've gone through the offense and special teams. I have 26 players on offense. That's 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, could get by with 3, 4 tight ends. I think that's the case. 6 wide receivers and 9 offensive linemen. So you could trim one from there. 26 players on offense alone. and I understand I'm probably over one. And then the cuts of note: AJ Arcuri, Dylan McMahon, Willie Lampkin. The guy, man, Lance Zierlein just raving about Willie Lampkin. Um, the best guard tape he saw in college football this past season, but he's 5'11 and 280, so there's the concern. Justin Dedich, Ben Dooley, True Edwards, the wide receiver, Britton Covey, the punt returner, kick returner, special teams, wide receiver guy we just picked up, Cody Schrader, and then Drake Stoops, coach's son, wide receiver there. And there's some other guys. I'm not listing everybody here, but we're up to 29 players. So we're going to have a dilemma here. And that's why I think I'm calling this the 53 plus one roster. Let's walk through the defense here. The defense, some tough decisions here as well. So the starters, Braden Fisk, Poona Ford, and Kobe Turner. What a group. Pretty impressive. Now, the dilemma here is, you sign Poona Ford because he's a run stuffer. And are any of these three or four guys that we would lean on being our first thought, our backups, Deshaun Johnson, Laurel Murchison, Tyler Davis, the rookie Ty Hamilton. Are any of these guys considered run stuffers that you can lean on as, guys that are going to stop the run? Not that they're feeble in that area, but they certainly don't excite me as rotational players at nose tackle. So for those of you on the YouTube channel, you already see this. Those on the podcast, I kept on this roster Dejon Terry, the undrafted rookie, big body, 330 pounds, along with Tyler Davis and Ty Hamilton. So for now, moving on from two players that I kind of like and have really proven themselves to be, contributors. Deshaun Johnson, Mr. Irrelevant a couple years back, and Laurel Murchison. And I know I could be completely wrong. Don't get overexcited. Don't get too mad at me. Just chime in on what you think, where you think I'm getting it wrong. I don't pretend to be the expert here. Just thought it would be fun to run through this one time as a fun little exercise. Is it fun? Oh, for some of us it is, maybe. Moving on to edge outside linebacker. Now I carried 5 here. The odd man out is Keir Thomas, but pretty good group here. Jared Verse, Byron Young, Josiah Stewart, and Brennan Jackson, as well as Nick Hampton. Now I'm going to have one extra guy on this roster, but I don't think if we're going to cut one additional guy, it's not coming from defense, I don't think. So I'm pretty solid on this group. Nick Hampton coming back from an injury, so hopefully he recovers and is good to go. Then the inside linebackers, and I had a surprise cut here, maybe for some of you. Maybe some of you are cheering me on at this point, because not on my list, the guy missing is Troy Reeder. And that's a hard cut for me because I know Chris Shula loves him. I know they love his ability to wear the green dot, and a reliable but unspectacular inside linebacker. The guys I do have: Omar Spates, Chris Paul, Pooh Paul. I got to get used to calling him that. And I kept Nate Landman and another undrafted rookie on this pretend roster, Sean Dolak. And could the Rams carry 3 inside linebackers? I think they got to go with 4. Some of these guys are going to have extreme special teams ability as well. Now, Reeder, the odd man out, I'm not sure. I just really love what Sean Dolak brings to the table. He looks like the real deal to me, and Nate Landman beating out Troy Reeder essentially. This is what I'm kind of pulling for, and ideally, Troy Reeder gets hired as a coach by the Rams. How about that? Where are we at here? Cornerbacks. And, when you look at this list I have here, there was a comment on the internet recently. One of an analyst or writer said, characterize the Rams cornerback room as underwhelming. And I can kind of see that. Akilla Witherspoon, Darius Williams, Kobe Durant, Emmanuel Forbes, and Darion Kendrick. Those are my guys. And I think we could add a player here, and I kind of hope we do. The odd man out would probably be Kendrick or Forbes. I don't, kind of guessing with Forbes here. Uh, Guy is such a slightly built cornerback. If you look at him on the field, you can't believe he's an NFL player, but he was a first round pick. So, hey, we'll see what happens. Again, this is guesswork by me, yours truly. So keep that in mind. And, I hate to cut players, but someone's got to do it. And the safeties, I got another surprise here. I got 5 safeties: Cameron Curl, Cam Kinchins, Quentin Lake, Jalen McCullough. No surprises there. And Lake, you can call him whatever you want. He's just on the field every snap doing something. And my 5th safety, Nate Valcarcel, another undrafted rookie, and he measures out really good as far as his athleticism. You read about this guy. I think the more you read and more you watch, the more you're going to like him. Is he going to make this roster? I have no idea. I think the Rams will carry 5 safeties. If they make a big addition here in the cornerback group, maybe they carry 6 cornerbacks, 4 safeties, and 1 or 2 of those cornerbacks are highly versatile. I could see that happening. Darion Kendrick, could he drop back and be a 5th or 6th DB? I suppose he could. I don't think Emmanuel Forbes can do that. He doesn't have the size, but I'm keeping Valcarcel on this roster. And hey, there's still John Johnson hanging out there. And he could be brought on as they have, was it 2 straight years they've added him late? So we'll see what happens with John Johnson. But so where does that leave us? Well, first, the defense, summary of the defense: 6 defensive linemen, 5 outside linebackers, 4 inside linebackers, 5 cornerbacks, 5 safeties, 25 players. And between the 26 players on offense, the 3 players on special teams, we're up to 54 players. So I have to make another cut. Who are the notable cuts on defense? Well, you got Deshaun Johnson, Laurel Murchison, and, I'm not hoping these guys are cut. I'm not even predicting they will be cut. This is just a fun exercise, an experiment, shall we say, of what a Rams 53-man roster might look like. And then Keir Thomas, Troy Reeder, the 2 cornerbacks, Charles Woods and Josh Wallace, and the safety, Tanner Ingle. And there are a handful, quite a few other guys. I'm not listing everyone here. Those are the ones I wanted to bring your attention to that I have left off this. Well, it's a 54-man roster. So I failed actually to come up with 53, and I didn't know what to do. I think it could be a running back. It could be, it's going to be someone on offense, I think. But hey, Les Snead and Sean McVay will figure it out. I'm going to roll with the 54-man roster, 53 plus 1. You tell me who the extra cut here. If I were to go with this roster, who would the extra cut be? You cut Valcarcel, you're down to 24 players on defense and 4 safeties. I don't think you can get cut one of these cornerbacks without replacing them with another cornerback: Witherspoon, Williams, Durant, Forbes, and Kendrick. So you can make a change here. It's going to stick at 5, though, I think. Maybe cut a linebacker, roll with Spates, Paul, and just Landman or Dolak. I don't like that idea either. And remember, these guys typically have really good special teams value, and I can guarantee you Dolak and Landman will. And then outside linebacker, maybe you roll with 4 and move on from Nick Hampton. I don't think that's, I'm assuming Hampton's going to be healthy, but if he isn't, they'll just slide in another linebacker, outside linebacker, edge rusher. And defensive line, you can argue the names here as the backups: Tyler Davis, DeJoun Terry, and Ty Hamilton. But you can't argue the number, I don't think. And, plug Laurel Murchison or Deshaun Johnson in there. Sure, have at it. You could plug in Deshaun Johnson uh, for Nick Hampton, actually. Johnson, pretty much strictly a 5 technique, if I'm not mistaken. And let's see, if you go back to the offense, who could you? Oh, you're not you're not cutting your punter, long snapper, or kicker. And then offensive line, I just really want them to go with 9 at a minimum. We just have to do that. I'm not thrilled with the talent level of our backups. Just going with 8 just is nonsensical to me. So I'm keeping, let's go back to that on the YouTube channel once more. Leviston, McClendon, Limmer, and Wettig. Hey, you want to throw Dedich or McMahon in there? Or Ben Dooley, the undrafted rookie, for one of these guys or 2 of these guys? Sure. But I like the number 9 there for the offensive line. Tight ends, if they were to move on from Colby Parkinson, that would solve the 53 plus 1 problem. Then you got a couple of undrafted rookie tight ends you can pull up as needed on game day. Those practice squad transfers. Enroll with 3 tight ends on game day, active on the 48. I suppose you could do that. That would be one place where you could potentially trim a player. It's just limits you if you really want to go 12 personnel. It creates some challenges schematically, I think, because not all these tight ends are going to be deployable in the same way. That's for sure. Davis Allen, I think, has struggled blocking. Terrence Ferguson, I think they want to use him more in the passing game than has been in the past, although he's reportedly a very good blocker. And we know what we have in Tyler Higbee. And the wide receivers, move on from one of them, keep them on the practice squad, Smith or Mumpfield. I suppose that's a possibility, and roll with 5 wide receivers. That's one place where you could trim a player. You tell me in the notes here in the comments who you want off this 54-man roster, and then the 4 running backs. And you could go with 3. You could absolutely go with 3, and that very well could be what they do here. And then there is the quarterbacks, and I don't think you change that. Obviously, 2 active on game day would be the most. You got the emergency quarterback option there. So there you have it. There is my 54-man roster. 54-man roster. Comment away. And again, this is just it's a fun exercise, kind of get things rolling on what this Rams roster might look like. And in my opinion, it's a pretty darn good roster. I mean, we're making decisions at the bottom of this roster where some talented guys, we're going to move on from them. I think this might be the deepest roster we've had since the Super Bowl run, the Super Bowl year. Maybe not as much high-level, top-level talent, the Ashawn Robinsons and Von Millers and all these guys, but down to the 54th guy, pretty darn good roster when you consider Ronnie Rivers as your 4th best running back and Davis Allen as your 4th best tight end, and so on. Pretty darn good. And if a couple guys come through, could be no holes in this roster. Talking about guys like Pooh Paul and a couple other positions, if they step up. Poona Ford, if he's as advertised, man, it's going to be a rock solid roster, 1 through 53 plus 1. And tell me what you think. Tell me how I did, and we'll maybe revisit sometime out here from Rams Up.